The slap rang out so loud the entire cabin gasped. An elderly black woman sat perfectly still, her cheek stinging, but her dignity unshaken. Passengers whispered, some smirked, while the flight attendant loomed over her, barking, "Move to the back where you belong." What no one realized was that this so-called helpless old woman was the billionaire who owned the very airline they were flying. And she was about to flip the entire plane upside down. The sting of the slap still burned across her cheek, but the elderly black woman did not flinch. She sat tall, her hands folded calmly in her lap, as the entire cabin froze in stunned silence. Gasps rippled through the rows. A businessman behind her muttered, "Did that really just happen?" The socialite in pearls clutched her husband's arm, and yet the woman at the center of it all did not raise her voice. She did not even blink. Lauren, the lead flight attendant, stood above her, chest heaving, her eyes flashing with the kind of arrogance only authority unchecked can breed. "Move to the back," she hissed, loud enough for every passenger to hear, "or I'll have security drag you off this plane." But the elderly woman did not move. She simply lifted her chin, her calm more unsettling than a shout. Her presence carried the weight of decades lived, storms weathered, and battles already won. Passengers leaned in, whispering. Some scoffed, assuming she was just being stubborn. Others frowned, sensing something deeper was happening. "Why doesn't she just get up?" a woman muttered. "She probably snuck up here," another said under their breath. But the old woman knew better. This wasn't about a seat. It was about dignity. And she had built her life on never letting anyone strip that away. Earlier that afternoon, she had boarded the jet with quiet confidence. Her tailored blazer sat neatly over pressed slacks. Her silver hair framed her face with grace, and her every step was measured, deliberate. The plane gleamed under the midday sun, its polished exterior catching the light like a promise. Inside, leather seats, gold-accented fixtures, and chilled champagne set the stage for luxury only the privileged expected. Lauren had greeted others with radiant smiles. The wealthy Raymonds received champagne before they even sat down. And the businessman in the front row was met with an almost reverent tone. But when it came to the elderly black woman, Lauren's warmth evaporated. Her greeting was clipped, cold, her smile thin as glass. "Welcome aboard," she had muttered before turning quickly to the next guest. The old woman didn't respond. She had seen that look her entire life, people deciding who she was before she spoke a single word. Now, seated firmly in her place near the front, she met Lauren's eyes without flinching. "This is my seat," she said evenly, "and I'm not moving." Lauren's lips curled into a smirk that didn't touch her eyes. "This section is for elite passengers only. People like you belong in the back." Her words cut through the cabin like a blade. Even those who might have ignored the tension before were listening now. Grace, a younger attendant with nervous eyes, hovered nearby holding the passenger manifest. She hesitated, as though she wanted to step forward, but Lauren snapped, "I've handled this, Grace. Go." The elderly woman didn't react. She leaned back, fastening her seatbelt with steady hands. Her composure was a quiet defiance, a kind of strength that unsettled Lauren more than shouting ever could. Minutes later, Lauren returned, tray in hand. She offered champagne to the Raymonds with a beaming smile, water to the businessman behind. But when she reached the elderly woman's row, she deliberately skipped her, leaning over, as if she wasn't even there. "Excuse me," the woman said softly. "Could I have some water?" Lauren stopped, her face tight. "You'll get it when I have time." She moved on. The businessman frowned. Even the pearl-clad socialite turned to watch, curiosity now replacing her earlier disdain. Moments later, Lauren returned down the aisle, her pace sharp. She veered too close, her shoe catching the woman's shin. The tray jolted, cold water splashing across the woman's lap. Lauren gasped dramatically. "Watch where you put your legs! Look what you've done!" Whispers erupted. Some passengers shifted uncomfortably, others shook their heads. The elderly woman calmly brushed at her lap with a napkin. "You walked into me," she said firmly, her voice steady. That was when Lauren snapped. Her hand rose sharply, and before anyone could stop her, she slapped the elderly woman across the face. The sound cracked like thunder. Gasps filled the air. Glasses froze midair. Grace's hand flew to her mouth. The businessman half rose from his seat, fury flashing in his eyes. But the elderly woman did not falter. She kept her gaze fixed on Lauren, her stillness more powerful than 100 shouts. Her silence said what words never could. "You have no idea who you've just touched." Lauren, breathing hard, mistook the quiet for weakness. "Maybe now you'll learn your place," she spat. The woman finally spoke, her voice calm and deliberate. "You've just made the biggest mistake of your life." The cabin shifted. The businessman leaned forward, muttering, "She's right." Passengers who once whispered against her now sat rigid, watching the scene unravel. And then the cockpit door opened. The captain stepped into the aisle. But instead of turning to Lauren, he walked directly to the elderly woman. His voice was formal, respectful. "Ma'am, ground control has requested I check in with you personally. Would you like to continue this flight, or would you prefer we make alternative arrangements?" Every jaw dropped. Lauren's face went pale. "Captain, there's been some mistake." The captain raised a hand, silencing her. "The question is for her." Slowly, the elderly woman rose from her seat. The aisle cleared instinctively as passengers leaned back to watch. She adjusted her blazer, every movement deliberate, regal. Her silver hair caught the cabin lights like a crown. She turned to face them all. "You've all been wondering who I am," she began. Her voice carried effortlessly. "Let me be clear. I am the sole owner of this airline." The cabin erupted. Gasps, murmurs, disbelief. The businessman's smirk widened into respect. The Raymonds shifted awkwardly. Even the socialite's pearls rattled in her trembling hand. Lauren staggered back, her authority gone. "I built this company," the elderly woman continued, her tone steel-wrapped in velvet. "And I built it with one promise, that every passenger would be treated with dignity, no matter who they are. Today, I've witnessed a betrayal of that promise." She looked directly at Lauren. "And betrayal has consequences." The captain gave a small nod. 2 uniformed staff entered the cabin. "Miss Lauren," he said firmly, "you'll be leaving this plane before we depart." The passengers burst into applause. Lauren's lips parted, but no words came. Her face drained of color as she was escorted off, her footsteps echoing like a verdict. The elderly black woman sat back down, calm and unshaken. The sting on her cheek still lingered, but the message was clear. Real power doesn't shout. It reveals itself when the world least expects it. If this story hit you as hard as it hit me, make sure to hit like and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and which part of this story shook you the most.